value agriculture and livestock products. Third, the compact invests in roads. Farmers need access to markets to sell their agricultural products and livestock and to buy necessary inputs. More than $194 million will be used to rehabilitate rural and primary roads. Residents of 9 provinces are expected to gain greater access to markets, health, and education facilities because of improvement in these rural roads. And fourth, the compact invests in primary education, particularly for girls. Improving the literacy and math skills of girls gives them greater employment opportunities in the long run and contributes to a more productive labor force. Building on Burkina's very successful MCC threshold program that constructed 132 girl-friendly schools, nearly $30 million of the compact will be used to expand each of these 2 schools to include additional classrooms for 4th through 6th graders. Burkina demonstrates a strong willingness to invest in its citizens, an essential ingredient for sustainable growth and poverty reduction. And we are pleased to cooperate with the United States Agency for International Development in Burkina. USAID's implementation of Burkina's MCC threshold program, with participation from international and local non-government organizations, is a striking example of how development agencies, even with different approaches and mandates, can work together in partnership to accomplish extraordinary results for the poor. The synergy among these compact projects creates a plan of action for the people of Burkina to reduce poverty and promote economic growth. The government is committed to the sustainability of these programs, whether by budgeting for road maintenance or providing trained teachers for the new classrooms. This level of responsibility and accountability is necessary to leverage and make the most effective use of our investment of American taxpayer dollars through this MCC grant to Burkina Faso. President Compaoré, I would like to thank you for your personal involvement throughout this process, and for your visionary leadership and commitment to the success of the Burkina Faso MCC Compact. The Millennium Challenge Corporation is proud to partner with your country. As this compact now enters the implementation stage, we shall together work to deliver meaningful results in the lives of the poor. Let us resolve today, starting with the historic signing of the compact between Burkina Faso and the Millennium Challenge Corporation, to deliver on this great promise. It is now my pleasure to introduce the chairman of MCC's board, Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. As you know, this will be the last MCC compact signed in Washington during this administration. MCC has come a long way since its creation 4 years ago. In that short span of time, it has gone from 0 to what will soon be 18 compacts, investing over $6 billion to reduce poverty and sustain economic growth in countries practicing good government and good governance throughout the world. The acknowledged success of our innovative and noble endeavor is owed, to a large extent, from its conception to its present, to you, MCC Chairman Dr. Condoleezza Rice. I want to express to you, Madam Chairman, on behalf of all of us at MCC and on behalf of all of our partner countries, and from the bottom of my heart, our sincere gratitude for your wise and measured leadership and for all the great efforts you have made to ensure the legacy of the Millennium Challenge Corporation. It would not and it could not have happened without you. Secretary Rice.
Well, thank you very much, John, and we've all worked very hard for the MCC, and no one harder than you and the hardworking staff of the MCC family. Let me welcome the many citizens and distinguished leaders, first and foremost of Burkina Faso, who are here today. I especially want to welcome Ambassador Yonli, Finance Minister Compaoré, Foreign Minister Bachelet, and most of all you, Mr. President. President Compaoré, thank you for coming, and thank you for the leadership that you have brought to make this day possible. I'd also like to welcome Senator Enzi and our U.S. Ambassador, Janine Jackson, and the many distinguished excellencies who are joining us, including our friend, the former World Bank President Paul Wolfowitz, who told me that Burkina Faso was the second country that he visited. And so he's here to support this great compact. Paul, thank you for being here. One of the hallmarks of the U.S. government and the American people is a steadfast commitment to global development, to ending the scourge of poverty that robs communities of hope and opportunity. The United States also continues to be a staunch and loyal friend of Africa, where in the face of incredibly acute development challenges, we see a continent of enormous promise, increasingly willing to tackle its own challenges to create a better life for Africans everywhere. Over the past several years, and with the full support of our Congress, President Bush and this administration have resolved to support leaders and citizens in developing countries who are working to create new possibilities for themselves. This idea of partnership is at the center of our many signature development programs, especially the Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, but it is absolutely at the center of the Millennium Challenge Account Initiative. The Millennium Challenge Corporation, or MCC as it is known, represents a transformational shift in how we provide our foreign assistance. It is an approach that supports countries that rule justly, invest in their people's health and education, and promote economic freedom. MCC investments are reducing poverty through economic growth in Africa, in Central America, in Eurasia, and in the Pacific by helping those countries most committed to their own development to make hard reforms, to help their people out of poverty, and to break through barriers to economic growth. MCC grants support those country-led efforts that lead to real and sustainable results. And with today's signing, we have now awarded nearly $6 billion to 17 MCC partner countries across the world. The $481 million MCC compact that we signed today with Burkina Faso is results-oriented. It is a strategic plan to improve agricultural productivity, land use rights, and land management, farm-to-market roads, and girls' primary education. This compact builds on Burkina Faso's already successful Threshold program, administered in partnership with USAID. This compact reflects the priorities set by the people of Burkina Faso, born out of exhaustive consultations throughout their society, and demonstrating the responsibility that the leaders and the people of Burkina Faso are willing to shoulder for their own development. And this compact will help Burkina Faso to foster strong and sustainable agricultural productivity, an antidote to the rising global commodity price crisis that is affecting the poorest nations. The United States wants Burkina Faso's compact to succeed in every way, for the benefit of the people of Burkina Faso, and as a model of stability and growth in West Africa, and as an example to the world that poverty can be overcome and replaced with prosperity. Mr. President, your visionary leadership in the development and now the implementation of the Burkina Faso MCC Compact has been and will continue to be instrumental to its success. I wish to personally thank you for the commitment to progress that you are demonstrating. You are among the most responsible of Africa's leaders, and you are ushering in reforms that are necessary to empower your fellow citizens to lead lives of hope and to help them turn a new page in the story of Africa. Mr. President, I congratulate your country and your people for reaching this momentous milestone in your development. And before I yield the podium to you, I would just like to say one further word about the MCC program. I do see many successful MCC Compact recipients. I see many aspirants. There's a wonderful spirit that the MCC has developed in the developing world, which is to think about what countries can do for themselves and to have the United States as a partner. And while this is indeed the last compact that this administration will sign in Washington, I know that the future of this program will be bright. I want to acknowledge, I've just seen him, that Paul Abragarth is also here, the first president of the MCC who got it off to its foundations, and I'd like us to acknowledge, Paul, your leadership. So again, while this is perhaps the last MCC compact in which I will participate as Secretary of State, I know that President Bush and the MCC team have left an important legacy here for how to think about development and how to support the most responsible and the most forward-looking leaders throughout the world. And so with that, Mr. President, since you are very much one of them, let me yield the podium to you.
Madame le secrétaire d'État, Rice, Monsieur le Président du Millennium Challenge Corporation, honorables invités, Mesdames, Messieurs.
Honorable Secretary of State, Dr. Condoleezza Rice, Honorable Chairman of the MCC, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen.
La cérémonie de signature de l'accord de financement du Compact de Burkina Faso est une occasion pour saluer l'excellente qualité des relations d'amitié et de coopération entre nos deux pays.
The signing ceremony of the Burkina Faso Compact Financing Agreement is an excellent opportunity to welcome the solid friendship and cooperation that exists between our two countries.
Cet accord, aboutissement d'un long processus de formulation, vient raffermir une coopération dynamique et porteuse d'espoir pour les populations burkinabées.
And this agreement, which is the outcome of a long development process, will strengthen the dynamic and promising cooperation between the U.S. and the people of Burkina Faso.
La communauté internationale, à travers la déclaration du millénaire, s'est assigné des objectifs pour le développement dont la finalité est de faire reculer l'extrême pauvreté et de créer les meilleures conditions d'épanouissement de l'humanité, notamment dans sa partie la plus éprouvée.
The international community, through the Millennium Declaration, gave itself some development objectives or goals that aimed at reducing extreme poverty and creating better conditions for the development of humankind in general, especially those who suffer the most.
La récente évaluation à mi-parcours établie par les Nations Unies situe les pays africains dans de faibles perspectives d'atteinte de ces objectifs au regard de l'ampleur du retard accusé.
In the recent midterm evaluation carried out by the United Nations, African nations classified as countries with low prospects to achieve these goals because of how far back they place in that classification.
Pour s'y rapprocher, il faudrait un réel sursaut de ces pays et un engagement plus effectif des États et institutions donateurs.
For bridging this gap, it would be necessary strong efforts on the part of the countries concerned and a more effective commitment from governments in general and donors institutions.
C'est en cela que j'apprécie et salue l'initiative de son Excellence, Monsieur le Président George Bush, d'avoir mis en place le Fonds pour les défis du millénaire comme complément indispensable à la loi sur la croissance et les opportunités économiques en Afrique, dont l'échéance a par ailleurs été prolongée jusqu'en 2015.
This is the reason why I appreciate and welcome the initiative put forth by His Excellency President George Bush that created the Millennium Challenge Corporation as something complementary to the African Growth and Opportunity Act, which, by the way, has been extended to the year 2015.
L'originalité de ce fonds est qu'il met en avant le lien entre l'aide au développement et la capacité des pays récipiendaires à exécuter des politiques vertueuses à travers des réformes économiques, sociales et politiques.
The original nature of MCC lies in the fact that it highlights the link between development assistance and the capacity of recipient countries to implement sound policies through economic, social, and political reforms.
C'est pourquoi je perçois l'éligibilité du Burkina Faso à la fois comme une grande marque de considération et comme un signe de reconnaissance des avancées réalisées en matière de gouvernance, d'amélioration de l'environnement des affaires, ainsi qu'en matière de satisfaction des besoins essentiels des populations.
That's why I see Burkina Faso's eligibility both as a great mark of consideration to our country and also as a sign of acknowledgement for the progress made in the areas of governance, improvement in business environment, and meeting the basic needs of our populations.
J'exprime mes sincères sentiments de gratitude à tous les artisans qui ont œuvré pour cette éligibilité.
And I express my sincere gratitude to all the architects who worked hard to make our country eligible.
Madame le secrétaire d'État, Mesdames, Messieurs, notre ambition telle que reflétée dans la stratégie nationale de lutte contre la pauvreté est de ramener la proportion des Burkinabés vivant avec moins d'$1 par jour de 46% en 2003 à moins de 35% en 2015.
Honorable Secretary of State, ladies and gentlemen, our ambition, as reflected in the National Strategy for Poverty Reduction, is to bring down the number of Burkinabe living with less than $1 per day from 46% in 2003 to less than 35% in 2015.
Les statistiques les plus récentes décrivent des progrès significatifs dans le domaine de l'offre éducative qui s'est nettement accrue avec en corollaire des bonds de 5 points environ par an du taux brut de scolarisation au cours de ces dernières années.
The most recent statistics show the significant progress that was made in the delivery of education services, which was markedly increased with almost a 5-point leap per year of the gross enrollment rate over the last 5 years.
Celui-ci s'est établi à la rentrée scolaire 2007-2008 à 73%, dont 65% pour les filles.
Enrollment figures reached 73% during the school year 2007-2008, with 65% for girls.
Dans le domaine de la santé, avec l'affectation de 15% du budget national à ce secteur, on observe des avancées notables.
We also made great progress in the health sector with the allocation of 15% of the national budget to health.
Le fait le plus marquant est la stabilisation de la progression du VIH-Sida qui devrait se renforcer avec l'amélioration de la communication sociale et un accès plus large de la population aux antirétroviraux, consécutif à la réduction de près de 80% des prix de ces produits.
And the most outstanding achievement in the area of health is the stabilization of the spread of HIV/AIDS, which should be strengthened even more with the improvement of social communication and a wider access by the population to antiretroviral drugs, which have their price reduced by 80% recently.
L'eau potable, dont les niveaux de couverture sont respectivement de 75% en zone urbaine et de 62% en zone rurale, devra être plus disponible d'ici 2015 avec la mise en œuvre du programme national d'approvisionnement en eau potable et d'assainissement qui connaît une forte adhésion de nos partenaires techniques et financiers ainsi que l'implication effective des collectivités territoriales dans son exécution.
Drinking water with a coverage rate of respectively 75% in urban areas and 62% in rural areas should be more available by 2015 with implementation of the National Program for Drinking Water Supply and for Sanitation, which has counted on the strong support of our technical and financial partners, as well as on the effective involvement of local communities for its implementation.
Mesdames, Messieurs, à l'instar des pays en développement à ressources limitées, le Burkina Faso a ressenti durement les surchauffes de l'environnement économique international, dont la principale manifestation est le ralentissement de la croissance économique.
As it happened to other developing countries with limited resources, Burkina Faso felt very severely the overheating of the international economic environment, whose main sign is the slowdown of economic growth.
En effet, le rythme d'évolution du produit intérieur brut est tombé de 6% en 2006 à 4% en 2007. Les perspectives pour l'année 2008 semblent plus prometteuses.
Indeed, the rate of growth of the GDP declined from 6% in 2006 to 4% in 2007. The outlook, however, for 2008 seems to be more promising.
À cet égard, je voudrais ici noter d'une part le mérite de nos braves paysans qui travaillent sans relâche et qui affrontent quotidiennement les adversités naturelles, et d'autre part l'audace des opérateurs du secteur privé devenus plus créatifs et plus proactifs devant un contexte international des affaires en permanente turbulence.
And in this context, I would like to note here, on one hand, the achievements of our brave farmers who every day work relentless but facing natural adversities, and also, on the other hand, the courage and the boldness of our private sector actors who became more creative and more proactive as they face an international context of business which is in permanent turbulence.
En ce qui concerne les premiers, l'État continuera d'appuyer leurs différentes initiatives d'organisation en vue d'accroître leur productivité.
As farmers are concerned, the government will continue to support their various organization initiatives so as to increase their productivity.
Pour la communauté des hommes d'affaires du secteur privé, les mesures de réforme entreprises seront poursuivies et raffermies en vue de créer un environnement plus incitatif.
For the private sector businessmen, the reforms undertaken will be continued and strengthened in view to create more incentives.
À ce propos, outre la révision du Code général de fiscalité, du Code du travail et de la réforme du système judiciaire, il a été créé et rendu opérationnel l'autorité supérieure du contrôle de l'État et l'autorité de régulation des marchés publics.
In this respect, other than review that was carried out of our general tax code, the labor code, and the reform of the judiciary, we also created a higher authority for state control and a public works procurement monitoring authority, which became operational.
L'avènement de ces deux structures participe de la volonté du gouvernement de lutter contre la corruption et les mauvaises pratiques.
And the establishment of these two institutions reinforces the government's willingness to combat corruption and bad practices.
Cette démarche procède également de notre souhait de transformer en opportunités de croissance et de progrès les contraintes actuelles liées aux différentes crises financières, énergétiques et alimentaires qui caractérisent l'environnement politico-économique international.
This approach also stems from our desire to transform into growth opportunities, the current constraints related to the several financial, energy, and food crises that currently incide on the international social and political environment.
Madame le secrétaire d'État, je voudrais me féliciter du fait que le compact du Burkina Faso, issu de concertation populaire puis du remarquable travail de rationalisation par les experts des deux pays, s'inscrit bien dans nos préoccupations de développement.
Honorable Secretary of State, I wish to express my great satisfaction for the fact that the Burkina Faso Compact is the outcome of grassroots consultation and the remarkable streamlining effort conducted by experts from both our countries, and it fits perfectly into our development concerns.
Le président du Millennium a tout à l'heure indiqué la munitie avec laquelle les grands projets ont été retenus ainsi que l'affectation judicieuse des ressources.
And the CEO of the MCC mentioned earlier that the great level of detail and care with which the 4 projects were developed, and also the reasonable resource allocation to each of these projects.
C'est pour ça que je voudrais vous dire que l'accord de financement du programme que nous venons de signer est d'une importance vitale pour le Burkina Faso, plus encore dans un contexte marqué par une crise alimentaire mondiale qui interpelle désormais avec insistance les pays africains sur les choix d'investissement
And this is why I would like to say that this agreement that we just signed was signed in the context of international food crisis, and this food crisis, of course, calls on the African countries to be ever more careful about allocating resources.
En conséquence, nous apprécions à leur juste valeur les exigences de bonne gouvernance qui entourent la mise en œuvre de ce programme.
And as a result, we of course appreciate even more so the demands in terms of good governance that regulate these programs.
Nous prenons par la même occasion l'engagement de créer les conditions nécessaires pour la mise en œuvre de ce compact dans le respect des règles de transparence et d'efficacité requises par nos accords afin de produire les effets attendus sur le développement de notre économie et l'amélioration de notre capital humain.
And we engage ourselves now to firmly implement these agreements with transparency and an effective and efficient way as set forth in the agreements themselves, and that to improve the economy and also to improve our human resources capital.
Je ne doute pas qu'au sortir de ce premier compact, le Burkina disposera d'une expertise accrue, capable d'aider désormais à la formulation et à la mise en œuvre de programmes de développement durable.
And I'm sure that for the implementation of the first compact, Burkina Faso will be able to count on assistance necessary and all the expertise necessary to carry it out well.
C'est aussi l'une de nos plus fortes attentes de l'appui dont nous bénéficions, de la part du Millennium Challenge dans le cadre du pilotage de ces projets.
And of course, one of our great expectations is the support that we receive from MCC in order to implement well these programs.
Madame le secrétaire d'État, Monsieur le Président du Millennium Challenge, honorables invités, Mesdames, Messieurs, je voudrais une fois de plus saluer l'engagement personnel du président George Bush en faveur de la promotion de la démocratie dans le monde et du raffermissement des relations entre les États-Unis et l'Afrique.
Secretary of State, Chairman of MCC, ladies and gentlemen, I would like once more here personally thank President Bush for his engagement and commitment in favor of democracy throughout the world, and also for his support to the countries of Africa.
Les États-Unis sont en train de donner au monde l'image d'un pays défendant la démocratie, l'égalité et l'humanisme.
So the United States now projects to the whole world an image of a country which defends democracy, equality, and humanism.
L'histoire retiendra que cet important tournant amorcé par le peuple américain l'aura été sous le mandat du président George Bush.
And history will remember that the beginning of this important turning point for the American people has been made possible under the leadership of President George Bush.
Je félicite en particulier Madame Condoleezza Rice, présidente du conseil d'administration du MCC, de même que l'ambassadeur Danilovich, président exécutif, et son équipe, Madame l'ambassadeur des États-Unis d'Amérique au Burkina Faso, pour leur constante disponibilité à accompagner les Burkinabés dans le processus d'élaboration du compact.
I would like to especially congratulate here Madam Condoleezza Rice, Chairwoman of the MCC Board of Trustees, as well as Ambassador Danilovich, Chief Executive Officer, and his team. Also, Her Excellency, the Ambassador of the U.S. in Burkina Faso, for their constant support to the people of Burkina Faso in the development of this compact.
Aux membres du Congrès et au peuple américain, j'exprime notre reconnaissance et notre amitié.
I would also like to express our gratitude and friendship to the members of Congress and to the American people.
Pour notre part, notre devoir permanent sera d'œuvrer à raffermir les relations d'amitié et de coopération entre nos deux pays et entre nos deux peuples dans un monde de paix et de prospérité.
For our part, our permanent duty will be to work in order to strengthen cooperation and friendship between our two countries and our two peoples in a world of peace and prosperity.
Vive la coopération entre les États-Unis et le Burkina Faso. Je vous remercie.
Long live cooperation between the U.S. and Burkina Faso. Thank